Welcome back to Health IQ Podcast. I am Brenda Bishop, your host. Today we will be visiting with our emergency manager, Bill Kardokus, about evacuation, readiness, preparedness, whatever we want to call it. Our crew today is Joyce Reinen and Bobby Hockaday. And Bill, we're so glad you're able to join us. And I thought we'd just start out this new year with some information, help people get ready for all the things that might happen to us later on during the year. So when we're looking at Quay County, what kind of emergency events might happen that would cause us to need to evacuate in a hurry?
Well, first of all, thanks for letting me be on the podcast today. We are in an area where there is just numerous events that could happen. We have windstorms, we have winter storms, we have extreme heat, we have severe thunderstorms. We have hazmat issues that could come up from the trains or the trucks on Interstate 40 or US 54. We have agriculture events as well because of, not hydrogen, but nitrogen,
Okay.
ammonia. So we could have those issues come up. And then there's just day-to-day things that happen in our own homes, like propane leaks and natural gas leaks. We could go on for days with the different kinds of disasters that we could have in our own home or in a broader sense here in the county.
Well, one of the ones that I'm always fearful of, because I live sort of on the edge of the county, is a fire event. This last year we were blessed with some great rains and wonderful grass. But now that it's winter and things are a little better, a fire event could be a big deal.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that as our fire departments are very concerned about right now is all that dead material, that fuel that's out there. We love the rain, but it also has a consequence for us. So we highly recommend that people create a defensible space around their home. That means having a good 30 feet of area where fire can't progress and it will protect your home. That's kind of tough with landscaping, but if you can landscape in such a way that you have very minimal brush, very minimal vegetation, and have that defensible space, you can protect your home quite easily.
Oh, wow. So that's something that we should be planning for year-round to make sure that we have a nice, at least manicured lawn, so there's just not a lot coming back.
Absolutely, yeah.
As we think about evacuations or things that happen, tell us how the notification process goes. What is all that going on?
Well, first of all, we have kind of a two-step notification process. We have what we call, it's a Nixle system. And so what that is it's kind of general, but needed to know information for the public. And you can sign up for Nixle by just going to our website, the county's website, quaycounty-nm.gov. And when you go there, you can put your phone number in and you'll get the information that you need to know. You'll get weather information when there's extreme weather, but also, for instance, we have our power shutoffs when the winds get high. We'll let you know about that as soon as we know about it. Excel, for instance, they try to give us at least 24 hours notice. They prefer to give us 48 hours notice. And as soon as they tell us, we'll send out a note to everybody saying, hey, be prepared for that. We might let you know about other things that are going on. For instance, if we have an event that we want to make you aware of, last year we had an active shooter drill, and we wanted people to know so they didn't freak out when they saw these policemen running everywhere. So we let you know those kind of things. But if it's a serious situation where we have to evacuate, if it's something that is going to require urgent action, we use what is part of the national system. It's called iPause. And the iPause system will hit every single phone within a radius that we might set. So I could set it to do the entire county. And if we had to evacuate the entire county, then everyone in the county would get a notification direct to their phone. You don't have to sign up for that. But we can also tailor that. So for instance, let's just say our folks in Narragansett, there was something that happened there and they needed to evacuate. I can just circle that area and tell the folks in Narragansett, here's what you need to do. You need to evacuate. Here's where you can go. Here's the best direction. And we can give them specific information. It's kind of like those Amber Alerts that you get. It's
That's
on the
what I was thinking. It'd be like the Amber Alert.
Yes, it's on the exact same system, and we can target that that area and make sure that everybody's aware.
Or I was coming out of a store in another state and my phone went off and said, tornado alert.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's not even clouds. But I guess it was the right prime weather for that tornado.
Yeah, and then that's one of the things that we can use that iPod system for. If we saw, for instance, a tornado on the ground that was headed for Tucumcari, we could send that out. Not a lot of notice there, but it's as quick as we can get it out. So
Enough to get yourself to a appropriate spot in your home.
exactly. Get in the center, away from the windows. You know the drill. We've all heard it.
Yes, we get that a lot, even though we're not really it's moving our way, but in the tornado zone as much as where our television stations come from.
Interestingly enough, though, in the state of New Mexico, Quay County has had the second most number of tornado warnings since 2000. The first was Chavez County in Roswell, but we had the second most. And I always thought maybe Curry County or Roosevelt or maybe Union County, because they seem like they always have a tornado warning. But Quay County is number 2 in the state. So we have a lot more than you might think.
That is amazing. I did not know that. Though I have seen things that one year we even took a picture of what we thought was a tornado and sent it to the news because, they were always wanting pictures of weather events. And they told us it was like some special spout. They called it, I forgot what they called it, but it wasn't a tornado. And I'm like, well, look at all the debris in it.
Yeah.
It was causing damage somewhere.
I've had that debate a little bit with National Weather Service about some that we had last year. Like, is this a tornado? And they're like, it's a funnel cloud. I'm like, yeah, look at it closer. And we kind of we'll agree to disagree on that kind of thing.
Yes. So that's how we get notified. And there really isn't a lot of time to prepare once you're getting notified.
Right.
So now would be a good time to sort of get some things together for possible evacuations this spring as the winds get up, the tornadoes start, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And what are some of the things that we should have easy to grab?
It's good to have a go bag. And in that go bag, you should have about 72 hours worth of supplies. Because if the worst case scenario happens, it's probably going to be at least 72 hours before first responders can get to you. So think ahead, 72 hours. What do I need? Well, I need food and I need water. Those are the first 2 things. We've got to have those things to survive. So have plenty of water, non-perishable food that you can fall back on. Some of those, ready to go meal type things that are in the bag, or, some people have chosen to take things like canned vegetables and they have water inside them. So they also kind of double as a food and water source, canned corn, for instance. So you want food and water, but you also need your other materials that were going to help you, your prescription medications. You may need to think about a change of clothes, because sometimes when you're having to run, maybe you have to run and it's in the rain or something like that. So you might want to change your clothes for 72 hours. Deodorant, toothbrush, all the toiletries that you need. You might also want to consider having things that are very important to you that are irreplaceable. And so I'm not talking about pull your chest of drawers with you and everything, but things like important papers, your insurance papers for your home and car, because those could get lost in a storm. Have copies of those, birth certificates, Social Security card numbers, those kind of things. Because under pressure, sometimes we forget those things. So it's quick to refer back to. And so all those important papers that you may need, that could be irreplaceable. And think about things to help keep yourself entertained as well. Because if you end up in a shelter, it could be there for a very long, boring period of time. So bring a deck of cards or something, or a good book, and to be able to take care of yourself for that time. And every member of the family should have one, how to go bag. The kids, make sure you include all of the things that we just mentioned for those kids as well, but also some toys and some things to keep them occupied, some snacks that they are happy to have. And your pets. Don't forget about your pets, because your pets need to be protected as well. So have a go bag for them with all the things that they need, their food, their water. But even more importantly, I think, is have a way, well, it's not more important, but it's important if you get separated from your dog, or cat, but have a picture of you and your pet so that if they do get separated from you, you can show, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is my dog. Can you help me find my dog? And so they have that, but also important papers for them too, like vaccine records and things like that.
As you were talking about those important papers to us, one thing that popped into my head is probably some of your more important passwords,
Absolutely.
because I have been recently changing passwords because you're supposed to change them and for safety reasons, and just keeping track of them is really difficult. And so then if you were locked out of everything in the cloud,
Yeah.
you really at least need some of your more recent passwords.
And along with that, if you have important documents on your computer, make sure you back that up on a thumb drive or something like that and keep that stored in your go bag as well. It's good to check your go bag out probably every 6 months and just make sure everything's up to date. You don't have anything that's expired in there, even your water, plastic water bottles or something like that. In time, you want to recycle those, get those out and bring fresh water in to check the date on your food and things like that. But it's also a good time to update your thumb drive if you have important documents on your computer and safely store that away as well. I would also include things like a first aid kit because you may be on your own for a little bit of time, and just be creative with what you think you need in that situation.
When I moved to this county, 30 some years ago, it was very common to be without power for sometimes days at a time. And we learned to keep like frozen water in our freezer, and because you can pull that out and use it in ice chest, but you can also drink it. We would freeze bottles of water and, different things that we had on hand to be able to survive. No power for certain, like at the time, flashlights, and I even have a wind-up flashlight.
That's a good thing to have. And when you mentioned that about no power and having water, many of us live out in the rural parts of the county. And so we have wells and things like that. And when the power goes down, you've lost your water source. So having some water inside your home, like in a plastic container or something that you can flush the toilet with, because nobody wants to live with that for a couple of days, So it's a pretty handy little thing to have, a few gallons of extra water just to flush the toilet.
We actually more recently had to go to town to buy water so we could flush our toilet.
It's the little things in life that become big.
But it was just one of those, it was a short-term power outage, but it was just the timing for us. So those are pretty important things to have in our bags, and we need to check it every 6 months, she said. What about sheltering in place? Talk a little bit about being ready to shelter in place.
Yeah. So shelter in place is one of those things that, you think back to a few years ago, we had the pandemic, and basically for a lot of us, that's what we ended up doing, is sheltering in place. We eventually, that first few days, it was kind of like, what's going on here? Everything shut down. And that's really what we were doing. We were sheltering in place. And, being able to have those things in your go bag to stay as well is important. But also when you think about sheltering in place, you may have to do things like protect your home in certain ways. Depending on the situation, there may be, let's say a worst case scenario with a hazmat incident here in the middle of Tucumcari or in the middle of Logan or something. And the predominant wind is blowing it towards your house. Well, ideally you would escape, but if it's too late, you may have to shelter in place. So you might want to have things that you could protect your windows with, protect your doors, maybe some plastic sheeting or something like that, some duct tape to secure that for a period of time until that danger blows over. So again, just being alert to that. And if you get an IPAWS notice that says, hey, shelter in place because this thing has happened, a truck's tipped over and there's all this poison gas leaking out, the tendency is to be curious. Oh, I wonder what that's going on, and look out your window or maybe even step outside, but it literally could kill you. So just follow those directions because it can mean your life.
Yeah. Maybe our first responders who have their kits or whatever, I assume they have something, could take pictures and put them up on Facebook so we wouldn't have to be so curious.
That's right. Yeah, we're cautious with the pictures, but sometimes we'll do that.
Because yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people who, and I know I am one of those who like sits down going, "Ooh, I wish I knew what was going on. I could see that smoke over there." And,
Yeah, and we've seen it plenty of times. There's a wreck or something like that, or as soon as you see the flashing lights, we're just like moths to a flame. We got to go to the light to see what's going on, and sometimes it's just curiosity, but sometimes it can be very, very dangerous.
Mhm. Or we could be in the way.
Yeah,
So we should not.
better you say that than me.
Yes, we should not be following our emergency responders to see what's going on. We should wait till they publicize it for us. And I will say that, but I know they won't because they're too busy taking care of the whatever the situation is. So we've talked about the paperwork. We've talked about having those food things that I hadn't even thought about having things to entertain ourselves, our pets, when how we're going to be notified about an evacuation. And you sort of mentioned some of those things. I always think of fire. Other parts of our state, they've just had horrible situations with floods lately. Do we have much flooding issue here?
Generally in the county, it's not in the floodplain per the FEMA maps. There are certain sections of inside Tucumcari that are in a floodplain. But generally speaking, most of us are not. But that doesn't mean we're immune to it.
Yeah.
We have plenty of arroyos and creeks and things like that that can quickly swell up. I live out southeast of town, and there's a creek that runs not far from my house, and frequently it'll come up pretty high. It's not flood stage, but it happens regularly enough that if we did have a substantial amount of rain, it could wash out the bridge that I cross. I mean, it legitimately could. This last year, we had a low water crossing washout. That thing had been there for 50 years, but eventually over time, it washed out. So because of a lot of rain that we had earlier in the year.
And we had a new bridge last year wash out.
Right.
That hadn't even been opened yet due to
So close.
freak flooding incident.
Absolutely. So you never know, and there's that always that advice: don't drown, turn around. Turn around, don't drown. I think is what it actually is. What it is: turn around, don't drown. And if you see that high water, you may think, oh, I've got a big SUV or a big pickup truck or whatever. If you don't know, don't take a chance. If you're not 100% certain, don't take a chance. So it's just good advice just to turn around and find somewhere else to go or to stay until that water recedes.
Mm-hmm. And so and you mentioned train events and things like that, and we've seen some of those on the news. So we're not immune to having a car flip over,
right. Yeah, just
derailment. That's it.
About a year and a half ago, we had a train in Logan with one of the containers caught fire. And so, it happens. It took a little bit of time for us to, get the fire out. It was a pretty hot fire, but it led us to take some other action as well in emergency management. We worked with Union Pacific, brought them in and had some additional training provided for our first responders, fire, police, EMS. And so we got some additional training in how to handle those situations. And sometimes you have an incident, and even though it doesn't turn out to be a major disaster, it's like, what? This could have been a lot worse. What can we do to prevent that? So that's one of the things that emergency management does is we look. Sadly, I'm always looking at the worst case scenarios, hoping that it never happens, but I want to be ready for them.
Right. And getting the people together to discuss those issues so that everybody's prepared when it's time. So is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to make sure we mention on our podcast?
I just want to emphasize again the opportunity to sign up for those Nixle alerts, because it does provide a lot of information. Sometimes I'll see on Facebook, hey, what's going on with this and this? I'm like, well, we sent out a Nixle alert. But if we have that, kind of keep you informed as to what's going on. We don't bombard you with nuisance stuff. It's just, this is stuff you need to know. It's a government thing. We're not going to provide a bunch of, foolishness. We're going to try to provide information that you specifically need to know for your day's activities or things that you want to, be alert to or maybe even avoid. But those iPause alerts, when you get one of those, you'll know it. And when you get one of those, you take action. We mean business at that point.
Well, and other things they could do in addition to Nixle, is if they're on Facebook, they could follow the emergency management, the page. Don't you have a page?
Well, it's with the dispatch.
Dispatch's page, and they can, and it's called Eastern New Mexico. I forgot. It has a different name other than Quay County Dispatch.
If I can remember, it's Tucumcari Quay County Regional Emergency Communications Center.
Yes.
It's a long one.
And then they could also follow the Quay County, because I put several things up on there.
Right.
So just some other ways that you can get information as well. Well, Bill, we thank you for coming and sharing with us today. And we want to present you with one of our
thank you.
tumblers as a thank you gift for coming and being part of our podcast. And maybe we can have you back sometime for another topic. This went really, really quick. So I was looking at my clock going, wow. And we invite you to start making your to-go bag right now. Get all your things together, so you never know when there'll be a weather emergency or a different type of emergency. And come back next time for another important topic for your family's health.
Special thanks to our guest this episode, Bill Kardokus, Emergency Manager of Quay County. Our host was Brenda Bishop, Health IQ Podcast crew credits. The director, camera operator, and lead editor was Robert F. Hockaday. Joyce Runyon was the second assistant camera and co-editor. Robert F. Hockaday and Joyce Runyon served as producers and handled all video and audio. Funding was provided by New Mexico Legislative Appropriation from Representative Jack Chatfield. Health IQ Podcast was brought to you by Quay County Health Council. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Quay County Health. If you have content ideas, reach out to us at healthiqpodcast@gmail.com. Check out the Health IQ blog at qchealthcouncil.org. This podcast was created solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for advice from a healthcare or mental health professional.